is up, YouTube? This is your host, Ranee, here to spill that homicidal tea. Today, we are going to be cleaning up some of that old tea that got spilled in 1987. I love technology and how it mends fences between the past and the present. One cell can give you more than any jailhouse snitch ever could. And the story that comes from that one cell has no motive, no agenda, just telling the story as it happened. This is the case of Darlene Krashoc. I hope I'm saying your name right, sweetheart. And let me correct myself, actually, to respect her as I should. Army Specialist Darlene Krashoc. There's no way that I would ever go into the military, ever. They don't allow makeup or hair dryers or anything. Oh, are you crazy? For boot camp, I'm going to look good, okay, girl? No, thank you. But for those of you who do, you pledge your lives to the allegiance of your country. You protect the freedoms of pieces of crap like me who would never dream of doing that kind of thing. And I don't even really think about or care about frivolous things like freedom and freedom of speech and things like that. The kind of things that you guys in the military protect and fight for daily. You know, and it's ignorant people like me that expect that kind of stuff. And you guys protect people like us. So that's why these kind of cases get me a little bit bothered more than the others. It's just these souls get taken away way too soon, especially when it's somebody like this. It drives me particularly crazy. But before we get into it and I start getting all ridiculously metaphysical, I tend to do that, I just want to remind you to click that like button and slap that subscribe button like Joan Crawford slaps the absolute excrement out of her daughter on Mommy Dearest. No wire hangers! You know you thought it. Okay, enough. Now, on to the case of 34-year-old solved cold case of Army Specialist Darlene Krashoc. Justice has finally been served more than 3 decades after the body of a female Fort Carson soldier was discovered. On June 25th, 2021, Michael White was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the 1987 murder of Army Specialist Darlene Krashoc, who was only 20 years old at the time. The case was solved in 2019, 2 years after U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command officers used DNA evidence to link White to the murder. It was in the early spring of 1987, March 17th to be exact, officers from the Colorado Springs Police Department discovered Darlene Krashoc's body behind the Korean Club restaurant in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And she had been last seen out with fellow members of her squad at a local nightclub, and Krashoc was an active duty soldier assigned to the 73rd Maintenance Company stationed in Fort Carson, Colorado. And at the time of her death, she had just been 5 months shy of her 21st birthday. Oh, jeez. Krashoc died of strangulation, according to the medical examiner, and investigators determined that she was also brutally murdered somewhere else and was probably dumped there by the perpetrator. Army CID special agents collaborated with the Colorado Springs Police Department to solve the case throughout all of these years. Now, despite all the interviews and evidence gathered at the crime scene, the case remained unsolved. Now, the probe was restarted in October of 2003 to look into a fresh evidence by Colorado Springs cold case detectives. It was also turned over to the United States Army Criminal Investigation Laboratory, where examiners used cutting-edge technology at the time to look for clues. Chris Gray, CID Public Affairs Officer, stated that the special agents from the United States Army Criminal Investigation Command employed phenotyping technology and offered a reward to create new leads that they could, possibly get in this cold case. As a result, the Criminal Investigation Laboratory of the United States Army Criminal Investigative Command, that's a lot of words, assisted their special agents with the genealogy process, doing more forensic comparisons. CID Forensic Science Officer Jessica Veltri was appointed to the cold case in September 2014 while stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Washington, at the 22nd Military Police Battalion. Now, she had recently graduated from George Washington University's forensic science program in Washington, D.C., so she knew her stuff. Veltri was particularly interested in investigating these cold cases, and she was keen to put her new knowledge to good use. Veltri sent 27 pieces of the evidence to the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Laboratory in Georgia for DNA forensic testing. May 2016, after a thorough analysis of the case, there was a joint effort with the Colorado Springs Police Department to find further possible leads. Veltri had learned about phenotyping while researching violent crimes. Therefore, this testing included reanalysis of previously provided items and everything that they could for evaluation of phenotyping. Parabon Nanolabs, CC Moore, yay! I love her. I wish I could, I don't want to hug her, but I want to have a beer with her and just talk to her. She's so cool. I want to grow up and be her. A little late for that. Parabon Nanolabs was hired by CID in December of 2016. Hey, keep the cheers down. We all love CC Moore. CID had never used this relatively new technology before, and it provided a very detailed investigative report about a prospective suspect. In January 2017, the study used existing DNA data from the inquiry to provide trait predictions of the suspect. The suspect's ancestry, eye color, hair color, skin color, freckling, face shape, all that were predicted individually. A snapshot that we should be familiar with here, guys. If you've been paying attention, Parabon snapshots are the coolest. And I'll have a composite at the end of this, like I love to do. One of those snapshots, composite was made, and it was created by combining these qualities of appearance, depicting what the suspect would have looked like if he was 20 to 25 years old, as well as a composite photo depicting what he might look like 30 years later. CID obtained the genealogy information and a name via a database hit in May of 2019. They were able to identify a suspect through the maternal and paternal lineages. Yeah! When they opened the genetic genealogy report, say that 10 times fast, there was just one name listed in that report. That was an unforgettable moment for that investigative team. They finally got a hit of the unknown profile. No one ever imagined who it would be. The DNA profile was compared to a military database, and it was discovered to belong to a retired Sergeant First Class Michael White, who was stationed at Fort Carson at the time Krashoc was murdered. So after they finally discovered who it was and that he was a fellow military member, Jessica Veltri and the rest of the team were both shocked and a little excited. It was extremely exhilarating for the investigators to receive the results of this genetic genealogy report and learn how the analysis worked via publicly published data to discover a specific name. So that's pretty cool. I'm a big nerd with all this, so that's why I get so excited. It was so crazy how much times have changed since then, though. Because, I mean, like, if you think about, this was made available in 2017 to these detectives, and now these profiles, these DNA matches, Parabon and GED match. I mean, now it's no big deal. We think about that all the time. We hear about it all the time. But back then it was brand new. But when you think about everything that goes into it and how many, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, spirits of these victims are probably just sorting through their own evidence boxes and just patiently waiting for technology to bring their killer to justice. I mean, it is crazy. These people seriously better start like going to non-extradition countries. And I looked at the list, and it's not a fun bunch of countries to have to go to. So, bye. Anyway, the information was given to the Colorado Springs Police Department, who then orchestrated a surveillance operation on White. Joel Fritz, Command Chief Warrant Officer for the CID, said that the suspect was still living in the same neighborhood where the murder took place all these years later. During the surveillance, a cup from a fast food restaurant where they had been observing White having lunch, they gathered it after he threw it away. And we all know what trash is, public property. So thanks for the DNA. The DNA from the cup was discovered to be a match for the DNA from the crime scene. Sorry, Mike, I wish they had the needle where you're from. Anyway, An arrest warrant was written up on June 12, 2019, and White was apprehended at his home without incident the very next day by members of the Violent Offender Fugitive Task Force, the Colorado Springs Police Department Cold Case Homicide Unit, and U.S. Army Criminal Investigative Division. The trial only lasted a week, but it was quite the trial, as a guest witness, some of you may know, was on the stand as our good friend Joe Kenda. Heck yeah, dude, I love the Homicide Hunter. The Homicide Hunter was actually one of the investigating officers on this case. I mean, how cool is that? Somewhere, you know, Darlene just had to be like, oh my God, I'm famous. Michael White, now 60, was convicted. He was found guilty of the murder of Darlene Krashoc, and after more than a week-long trial, the jury needed a little over 4.5 hours to reach a guilty verdict. White appeared in court in his little prison jumpsuit, and he maintained his innocence. When given the chance to address the court, all he said was, "I didn't kill Darlene Krashoc, nothing else." Well, all I have to say is, talk to the hand. Oh, wait, no. Talk to the strand of DNA. Get it? Yeah, that even embarrassed me. Sorta. I do think that's funny. Anyway. Well, that is it for the case of Darlene Krashoc. This case is made possible via our favorite forensic foxy lady, Cece Moore. I love her. I'm so glad that I live in a world that got blessed with such a great mind. I wish I could have had helped it, but I'm not that smart. Parabon and GED match are incredibly important to the making of the consciences of killers yet to be caught tremble in fear all over, because your day is coming, bruh. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. And also, as always, boy, do I have some scripts written. That's all I did this past Sunday. I was just banging out script after script after script. I'm finding all sorts of cases from Japan to Greece to Ireland. Just criminals and killers, they just don't stop. And as far as a recession-proof career, true crime vlogging is definitely not one to run out of content. Man. But let me remind you of how very important it is that, like, way more important than you know, that it is to hit that like and subscribe button. The analytics, it helps me a lot. If you like me, you'll do it. And if you don't like me, then you don't give a shit, so just do it. But anyway, if you want to get notifications of when new videos are posted, make sure whenever you subscribe, you hit that little bell icon next to it, and you'll be alerted the next time we can spill that homicidal tea over here on the old YouTube. Until next time, try not to murder people, y'all. Stay beautiful, you little homicidal cuties. I'll see you in the next video.